Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk7527. Cryptopunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. Good morning and welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today we've got Punk7635. He's a Atty with clown green eyes and really punkish Mohawk hair. He's an art connoisseur of one of the most interesting art collections out there. Please welcome Artie Handz to the show. Artie, good morning, and how are you? Actually, good evening to you.
Yeah, a little late afternoon chat. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat punks and art and general collapse of the crypto industry. Hopefully not.
It has been a crazy week, man. Well, how have you been surviving the last week or so? And I think maybe just for listeners, this is just the end of the first week of the FTX collapse. So this might be a little bit delayed when we sort of share this out.
Yeah, not too bad, to be honest. I have always been, a firm believer of not your keys, not your money. So I do not hold anything on exchanges, only, I don't know, maybe like $17 on Kraken on, when you trade stuff and there's like 0.001 Bitcoin and ETH left, I got to change a bunch of stuff. But other than that, wasn't affected directly in any manner. And yeah, I'm mostly in art these days, which I don't think, is kind of holding up a little bit more because it has its own, own value drivers versus just the pure crypto. So it, it's not great, but it's could be much worse. So it's very unfortunate. I know quite a few people who had some decent money on FTX. So it's a tough one all around, but
it's it's insane. I think I'm in the same boat. I didn't have a lot of exposure to FTX, but I did have some on crypto.com, so there was a fair bit of FUD that came out on that. And so I just had to scramble and try and take everything off. And I had stuff staked on Kraken as well. So it's just scary, right? You just don't know what's happening behind closed doors.
Yeah. Well, I'm here in Los Angeles area. So the former Staples Center, now the Crypto.com arena. I'll be interested to see what it's going to be next.
Yeah. Well, they were saying that the FTX arena in Miami is going to be apparently rumors that there's going to be taken over by Bored Apes. I don't know how true that is though, but did you hear that?
I saw like a thread that said something like that, but then I also saw one that was like, I saw a bunch of different ones there, so I don't really believe any of them. I saw like an ExxonMobil arena, like I'm not sure if any of them are true. So
crazy. Well, maybe we could probably dig into some of this a little bit later on, but well, we're really excited that you've joined the show, mate, and big fan of your tweets and your art posts on Twitter. So it'd be good to sort of unpack, I guess, your story. Maybe we could just start with simply maybe your handle, Artie Handz. Like, how did you come up with that, and how did that sort of come about?
Yeah, so I guess if we go back in a little bit to like how I got into and how I got into the whole space, but it was very early 2021. I think it was around March or so when Yats dropped. Do you remember those? They were the emoji things. Haven't heard about those in a long time, but I was like, at that point it was just everything was on fire, so you just bought anything you could at that. And I bought a whole bunch of different Yats, and the one that I kind of liked the most was an art frame, art, and then Diamond Hands, because I was like, oh, that'll be my art persona or whatever. And then I thought of those as like initials, and I was like, oh, I made up a name in my own head, and it was Arthur Demond Hands. And then I kind of was like, that's too long to like type out. It'll be like art and then like D, period, art and then D period Hands. And I was like, Art D. Everyone's just going to call me Artie. So I just made that decision, and shortened it myself down to just Artie Handz.
Cool.
And I was that before I even picked up my punk. So
nice. Was, so you're always
a couple months later.
You're always into art then. So maybe take us all the way back then, man. Like, how did you what's your sort of background, and how did you find your way into Web3?
Yeah. So I'm an attorney by trade. I was a finance degree undergrad, and then did a couple internships at some big banks, and was like, man, I don't want to do this. This is not for me full time, and decided to go to law school. Did that. Worked in big law for one of the top firms out here on the West Coast for 3 or 4 years, and realized that I didn't like sleeping in my office on the weekends either, no matter what the job was. So left that and have kind of I've moved around a bunch. I'm barred in California, Texas, and New York. Did some kind of just random jobs and had my own small shop for a little bit. And then I got an MBA in 2017, 2018 from a school in Spain. It was mostly online, but it was actually really funny. We had a banking class for the MBA, and you had to write kind of a paper at the end of it. And it was kind of open-ended. It said, what is the future of banking? And it wasn't like a real long paper, just like 5-6 pages or something. But I wrote about how the future of banking is digital assets. And so, that was 2018. And unfortunately, I did not look into what was going on Ethereum. My understanding of crypto at that time was not super strong. So I had no idea that some of these things were actually happening at that time. But then a couple years later, right around Christmas 2020, it was a few days after Christmas, a good friend of mine from undergrad texted me and said, do you know what NBA Top Shot is? I said, no, but tell me. And he said, it's digital basketball cards. And I immediately was like, oh, like, I know, I totally get it, from the get-go, and then started kind of looking into it more. And I fortunately got in before the huge run-up of Top Shot in kind of January, February into March there. Made some pretty good money. And, once that kind of peaked, I was like, all right, now what? What else is out there, And it took me about a month to figure out a MetaMask wallet and funding it and all of that. So, probably around mid-March, right around like when the big Nifty Gateway boom was happening, I finally kind of figured out how to get into the Ethereum, greater Ethereum ecosystem, and proceeded to blow a lot of that money that I made really, really quickly on Nifty Gateway purchases and all kinds of stuff. Had no idea what I was really, really doing, but after, everyone's got to take some L's before you really, really learn, right? So kind of tighten that up a little bit, and yeah, over the next couple of months was just learning, and then my birthday's in mid-May, and I was having a few pre-birthday cocktails the day before my birthday, and saw Punk7635 on the floor and said, F it, let's do it. And bought it for 15 ETH, which was definitely my biggest purchase at the time, and still among actually bigger purchases. So yeah, I bought myself a birthday punk, and then it's just everything kind of snowballed from there. And I found found a niche as just, art curation, I think. So it's been a wild ride, that is for sure. Did never really expected to be here.
That NBA Top Shots was a definitely sort of a crazy ride, and I do remember Nifty Gateway. That sort of period was super crazy because it was at that time it was like a curated platform, right? So they would
Hmm.
have they would announce an artist, maybe one or two artist drops per week, and so you would have to wait until that time slot came about, and basically anything that you bought turned to gold, right? At that point in time, before the flood
Yeah, it
came.
was just a pure melt ups. I know they'd have a lot of like open editions, too, and so it'd be like, one piece of art, and then the artist sold 692 editions in 30 minutes, because everyone's trying to get in on the hot latest thing, and even after that, even after you got 692 editions sold, it was still going up and up. I remember I bought one of Trevor Jones' Bitcoin Angels for like $3,900. Like crazy stuff. Definitely took some losses there, but it was a really good learning experience. Quickly, that don't when it melts up, you gotta buy in at the beginning of that melt up, not towards the top, because you can make some mistakes there. I definitely, even on Top Shot, after it melted up, I sold almost everything pretty close to the top, but I didn't expect it to, crater as much as it did afterwards. I think I bought the LeBron Kobe tribute dunk for like $22,000, something like that. After
Crazy.
it had reached like 30, I was like, oh, it'll go back down, whatever. But yeah, I think I bought it at 22, and then had to, the end of last year, for tax purposes, sold it for 5 or 6, and then bought another one about a month or so later into the new 22 year, and even then that one's still down to like $800. So the downside is always much greater than you think sometimes.
Tax harvesting. Um,
Hmm.
mate, let's just go back a little bit and come back to Top Shots and Nifty Gateway. But so you were an attorney. Were you sort of what kind of attorney were you? Were you a finance attorney? Like,
Corporate attorney, like did M&A, post 2008. I was doing some bankruptcy, because there was not much M&A, so I was just kind of doing whatever we had work. But yeah, it wasn't a huge fan of either. It's basically just a paperwork attorney, or I compare it to walking like a group of dogs. Like, yeah, you can kind of tell them what to do, but ultimately they're pulling you, and you're the one who has to clean up all the shit. So I just never. I always would rather build something or be part of some type of movement or something, versus being the guy who's cleaning up the dog shit. So
yeah.
that's kind of why I switched more to a business side of things. I've consulted on all kinds of different industries, weird things. So I'm pretty used to being in weird spaces that most people aren't cognizant of, or whatever. Like I worked in the shipping industry for a while. I used to travel all over Southeast Asia and China, consulting for like Maersk Lines. Also, I'm a fifth generation rancher. My family, uh, you know, put a flag in the ground in 1884 and land in the middle of nowhere and said, "This is ours," and it's still in our family. So I've done lots of weird things. So this wasn't that weird to me. Even if all my normie friends still look at me when they're like, "What are you doing right now? You're buying JPEGs? What?" I'm like, yeah, par for the course
So,
for me.
so what are you doing on a day-to-day basis now, Artie? Like, how are you spending your days?
Yeah. wake up at the crack of dawn when one of my three boys, age 7 months, almost 2, and almost 4.5, wakes up, and then a lot of dad duty in the morning, basically, and then in the afternoon, it's some DJing, some Twitter, and I still do a little bit of consulting here and there, and I do all of the legal and accounting, like back office work for our family ranch, which I'm eventually taking over here in the next few years. So it's a lot of that. I travel, but the ranch is in Wyoming, and I travel back and forth quite a bit.
Amazing.
So that's kind of the day to day.
Amazing.
A lot of Twitter on the phone. I'm just kind of walking around doing other things,
Yeah. So did you have much of an art background or a bit of an art eye developed before coming to NFTs?
Yeah, I was always been interested in art, and I have, I don't know, maybe like 9 or 10 like physical pieces of, of note, but of some value versus what I'd call garage art that you buy when you're traveling, or something like that. But I never felt very comfortable in the traditional art world. When I lived in New York, I would go to a gallery, and I'd wear my cowboy hat and Levi's from the ranch, and when they asked what I do, I'd say I was a rancher, and then they wouldn't want to sell me the art, and they wouldn't ask me any more questions like, what are you doing in New York? Like, oh, I live here. I'm actually also an attorney, and blah blah blah. But they never asked another question. So I never felt. I always disliked the exclusivity and nudge nudge, wink wink of the trad art world. So I had stuff, but it was mostly bought through one of my good friends from college. She worked at Pace for a while. She's an art consultant, so it was usually some things through her. But my interest in art has been since I was little. My mother, I don't think she would call herself an artist, but she weaves rugs and makes, she just makes things, and always has been interested in art herself. And my parents were separated when I was pretty young, and so when I was with my mom, even though I didn't necessarily have an interest in it at that age, like 10, 11, 12, whatever. I was a very sports focused kid. I wanted to play basketball and baseball and football all the time. It was, we watched an hour of football on TV, and then we watch an hour of whatever, she wanted. And it was always something art or design or architectural based. And so I just kind of always soaked that in, So I definitely a shout out to my mom, because I definitely would not be here without her. But yeah, I've always just kind of soaked that in, and I don't want to sound like super facetious, but always have been a bit of a trendsetter, I guess, in terms of like music. My friend, I'd be the good guy who DJ'd all the parties, and people would ask me, send me the new music, because I love trying to find what's next. I used to be, when I was probably 16 to like 25, like on the music blogs all the time, just trying to find what's new and what's cool, what's next. So I try to take that same kind of mental approach here. I'm not a giga whale. I don't have infinite money to buy every Grant Yun out there or every X copy or whatever. So I got to try and find the next ones, so that's kind of how my MO, I think. It's a mixture of ignorance and self-belief, I guess.
No, mate. No, I'm having a look through your art collection, and you've got some absolutely beautiful pieces here. And I've also got your Tezos sort of wallet open as well. But like for example, I think you've got Gazers #1 by Matt Cain, Matt Cain, I'm a huge fan of. I mean, that is a beautiful
Yeah.
piece. It's the aluminium one, which is super rare as well. But you know,
Yeah,
I guess from
that's a
your point,
pretty funny story.
yeah. Well, why don't you unpack that as well, and then I can sort of ask you a follow up question with, I guess, your what do you look for in art?
Yeah. Well, so specifically with gazers, yeah, I think I have 10 gazers, and I have along in the variety of different rarities too. I have a equator one. I think there's only 15 or 20 of those. I have a hour, minute, second clock one, which there are 20 or so of those. I don't remember the numbers anymore. But yeah, Gazer's number one was my. I've been told, I still don't really understand what this means, but it was my Chad moment, my Giga Chad moment. I like art blocks, but I was not really involved in like the art block summer, and everything was so expensive, and they started doing Dutch auctions, and gas was so high, and I just didn't really participate that much. And then, yeah, the Gazers were, early December of last year. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary here. And I was very aware of Matt's art, and I had seen his piece in Sotheby's and was just kind of blown away by how layered and thoughtful he was. And so when I saw that he had this art blocks drop coming up, I dug into the test net a lot and looked at all of them, and was just blown away by the technical mastery. And I understood right away that, there are different things like, here's the new frame rate every X amount of months, meaning it's going to move faster and better as display technology gets better. Like, he future proofed it. And to me, kind of morphing into your other question as well, is I look for things that I've never seen before. And to me, this was like the absolute top level of crypto art. Of this could not exist not built on Ethereum or on a blockchain platform. So yeah, when the time came, I didn't have any plan necessarily to get number one. I was just going to try and mint several and buy several and make a nice collection. And as the Dutch auction was dropping, it got down to 8 or so, and I'm like, are people not buying art blocks anymore? Because some of the other auctions had gone off pretty quickly and immediately. And also, granted, ETH was 4,200 or 4,300 around that day, so maybe it was just the thinking in USD was, well, that's a lot of money. But got to 8, and I was like, all right, if it gets to 6 and there's not an immediate bid, I'm just going to do it. And dropped to 6, and I did it. And it dropped to 4. No one else paid. No one else did it. It got to like 2 before number 2 was even minted. And so I was like, wow, I got way over my skis. Paid $26,000 for this. And no one else was even close. But I think maybe I was proven right there. And yeah, and then I picked up 9 or 10 more over the next week or so, and kind of built that collection there. But it was sometimes you got to go against the grain and just say, I believe in this, even if no one else believes in it to that degree. So that was a really cool moment for me. And I've been able to build a relationship with Matt over the past year, and was actually lucky enough to have dinner with him about a month, 2 months ago here in Los Angeles when he was in town. And he thanked me. He actually thanked me for number one, because he said that for me buying number one, because he said it really validated it. Because oftentimes on those things, it's a friend buys it at 10 ETH or whatever, to make it look bigger, more important or whatever. And I was so vocal about buying number one, and I had no previous connection to him or anything, so it was it made it very real, I think, in his eyes. Yeah. So I'll always appreciate that from him.
Artie, why don't you maybe just describe Matt Cain, because I do believe he's a real special gift as an artist in the crypto space, and also a little bit about the Gazers collection itself, because I think it's absolutely beautiful and stunning in terms of what he's trying to do.
Yeah. So, Gazers are are on art blocks, a collection of 1,000 moons, basically. And each gazer has, I mean, there's how many different traits to them, 30 or 40 traits that go together. And they reflect the actual current moon. So as if you see a half moon in the sky, your gazer is a half moon. If there's a new moon, there's nothing there. If it's a full moon, it's a full moon. So it fully tracks the lunar cycles, and will forever, because we as humans understand how the moon works and moves. And then on top of that, he's coded in all these cool, brilliant things, like the term "once in a blue moon." That's I think it's every 33 moons is called a blue moon. And so each gazer has a origin of that moon, which represent different times and aspects in Matt's life. So like one origin moon was the actual drop of gazers. Another was his first ever art sale, his first ever solo showing, things like that, that represent different times in his life. And so, for the once in a blue moon, so every 33 months after that origin, it turns and does this turns into a big giant special blue moon for the rest of the month. Just a few days ago, there was the solar eclipse, and they did special things for that as well. They're actually all, if you look at a gazer right now, they're all doing a pretty cool special thing right now, which I believe is for Monet's birthday. I'm not real sure on that one. I might be wrong. That's just what I doom scrolled and saw on Twitter today. But Matt's just like I said, he's just incredibly thoughtful and detailed in his work. He works, it's all generative stuff, but he's coded it all himself, and he's better at anyone than I've ever seen at like layering. All of the gazers in his piece have different color theories and layers on top of each other, and he's we're all playing chutes and ladders, and he's playing chess. You know what I mean?
He's just correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's actually a punk owner as well, right? Need to try and get him back on.
I'm not sure. Not sure actually. Yeah. I know he's a Nakamoto holder. I don't know if he's. I imagine he would be. He has a pretty epic collection himself.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things when you asked what do I look for in art. I try to not be a follower in terms of what I'm looking for, but the people that I do look to are some of the top artists. Like Matt, his collection's amazing. Several others too, but he's been in the space for a long time, and I just can't say enough good things about him, to be honest.
Nah, I'm in the same boat. I need to get a few of these pieces in the bag. It's just so expensive now. I think it's like 28th floor for a gazer at the moment, but they're absolutely beautiful, and I think you appreciate more of it when you get into the store for sure. Mate, and then so, I mean, we could talk all day about your collection here as well, but maybe let's just swing it to I guess the most important conversation of the day, which is around Cryptopunks. So you got 7635 for 15 ETH back in sort of May for your birthday in 2021, was it?
2021, yep.
Wow. And
yeah, so I guess you know what? Today is my 1.5 year anniversary, I think.
Nice.
Of being a punk owner.
Well, maybe you can talk to us about how did you discover the collection? What did the collection mean to you, and what made you hit the buy button on a CryptoPunk?
Yeah, other than a few whiskeys. No, I think when I first started, I think the narrative of punks being like the first NFT was still a bit alive. So that was my understanding of it when I had first started. But before I bought one, I had researched enough and understood that was definitely not true. But to me, there was still, even though not the first NFT, obviously there are still the collection that, other than pure art, almost, there's obviously the art world, and then there's kind of the PFP world, and other things here and there. But that was kind of the two main prongs of this last, year and a half, 2 years. And punks just started everything, the generative, different traits, all of that, 10,000 of them. Like, why does every other collection have 10,000? Because punks did, right? Like, they were the inspiration for all of it. I loved that being not the first, but the first in that type of sense, that they're, just squares and very lo-fi. That kind of represents it being early, similar to, I was a big video gamer in the mid late 80s and had an NES, like, so there's a very nostalgic factor as well. I liked the fact they were called punks, like Cryptopunks, like, hey, this is a movement, that's from the ground up, and no one really cares about, authority or centralization here. So I really identified with the vibe and the feeling, and also, saw it as a good investment opportunity, of course. But I just, it was, I think most people you talk to say that's punk's the main goal, right? And that's the end all be all. So for me, I was always wanted to get one. I was just, even when I started, it felt expensive. So that's why I needed the couple of whiskeys and my birthday to convince myself to do it. And then just kind of never looked back from there. I don't think I would ever sell this one. I know it'd be pretty hard to do it. I hope to get another one someday so I can have one as a more, long-term investment, and not I don't know, some of these things, you become so attached to them. Like, I can't imagine not having it at this point.
Absolutely. And talk to us a little bit about the traits and how you went about selecting your particular one with the green eyes and the Mohawk.
I didn't know that much about the, trait lore and some of those things when I bought it. I was always kind of looking on the floor because, I guess I'm, if I'm joining the club, I want to pay as little as possible to join the club. So I was just not necessarily like, oh, here's the absolute floor piece, but I was, always kind of looking at more floor ones. Also, that was about all the, liquid ETH I had at the time. But I was just looking at floor ones, and I was always kind of naturally attracted to the Mohawk, because it's such a strong, like, punk thing. I mean, when you think not just Cryptopunks, but punk culture in general, it's Mohawk, right? I mean, that's the number one signifier of punk. So to me, that was something I was very interested in, and the kind of, light brownish blonde Mohawk kind of fits my own coloring as well. So that was kind of a priority. And then the clown eyes, even though people make fun of them a little bit, I didn't care. I thought it was kind of funny. Like, I kind of imagined them, since they're in this, lo-fi squared look, like it actually being like dollar signs, painted over your eyes or something like that. So I kind of liked them. And then I felt a little validated when Visa bought, like, the girl punk version of mine. Like, it was the same Mohawk and green clown eyes, but female.
Remember that.
So I was, I was like, oh, hey, what's up, Visa? But yeah, now now that I know, I've been in the punk ecosystem and know a lot more about traits and stuff, there's definitely other things I would want. I don't think I would redo it or anything, but, as a as a rancher and stuff too. The cowboy hats are pretty appealing. My ape has a cowboy hat, but I those are so desired. It's a little hard for me to pay twice as much for the cowboy hat. But
so the cowboy hats are really cool. I really love those too. I think they're like ridiculous floors right now, right? There's probably about 160 ETH or something like that.
Yeah. If I could get a cowboy hat with the not the straight mustache like yours, but the handlebar mustache. Oof,
Cool.
that would do it for me. But we'll see. Maybe someday I can trade a gazer for him one.
Well, good luck, mate. And I just see on your Twitter handle as well. Even though you go by Artie Handz, your underlying handle is Punk7635, and also your avatar is actually of the punk itself. What does I guess, I mean, why have you gone with a punk as your identity in Web3 and the handle itself? What does that sort of mean to you?
I think, to me, punks in terms of a PFP, in terms of here, I'm going to, put myself out there as a PFP instead of being myself. Once I made that decision that I did want to be, anonymous or pseudo anonymous, there was no other real option to me. Like there's punks and there's everything else. Like I said, I hold an ape and it's great. It, to me, doesn't even come close. There's a certain amount of, just respect that you get. I think no one called me sir, SER, before I had a punk, right? And I also think there's some other, without naming any names or anything, there's some other collectors that I admire a lot and have, a similar style type size collection as I do, but have, some other PFP, and they have 4,000 followers and I have 13,000 followers. There's a mystique and aura about punks that just doesn't exist anywhere else in those PFPs. And not to mention the quality of people that hold punks, I think is second to none as well. It's, I still am like, how did I get here? Because there's, a lot of the people that hold punks are OG artists, or, people have been in crypto for 5+ years and claimed one and, know so much about all of this space. And I'm like, like I said, it took me a month to set up a MetaMask wallet. I'm not like a very technical person. Like I'm happy if I can get my computer to turn on. So I was just kind of in awe of the quality of people that held punks, and the community around them. And the other thing that I like so much about punks is, every other project is what's the saying? I'm trying to think now. When what are the devs going to do to fix this? Like when, what are they doing for us? Whereas, I guess, obviously Yuga owns the IP and everything now, but it's still, punks do things for themselves, like Punks Club and all these different initiatives from within the community versus relying on anyone else. And that collective individualism and drive is just something that really just drew me in. Like I admire so many of the punks. So
it's it's kind of interesting. I think there's a bit of that conversation happening on Twitter at the moment, especially with the fallout of FTX. I think I posted something that yesterday around, there's no royalties. The whole royalty discussions coming out. Punks have got no royalties, no centralization, no central teams, and a lot of them came back and sort of said, "What are you talking about? You guys are owned by Yuga." I guess what I sort of mean by that is that we, even though we are owned by Yuga, there is no expectation for any central teams to build anything out for us. We're like a finished product, which is a beautiful thing. And I think you're right. Most of the punk community are generally creators and builders. And so they generally build utility out for themselves. And the community, you could probably argue that the community itself is part of that utility, right? Getting access to that sort of community of people, which is a really fun thing. I mean, do you engage with, I guess, on Discord and Telegram with the Punks Plus? Do you sort of hang out with those guys?
Yeah, I'm in the Telegram chat. I wouldn't say I speak a lot, but I definitely, I check in every day for sure, like see what's going on. And the Discord, I just don't really do Discord. I mean, I have it on my phone only, and I, probably like once a week. I mean, I'm still in like a ton of Discords, but like I basically check it once a week and go through all the messages like super quick and delete all of them basically, delete all the notifications. And I just hate Discord. I hate the UI. I hate everything about it. So I kind of ignore it. Plus, I don't know. I think the punk Discord kind of used to be the place, but doesn't really feel like that so much anymore. So, but yeah, I do, partake in the Telegram chat a little bit. And, there's a lot of punk art collectors as well. We did like a hashtag Punks Collect with, I think there were 8 or 10 of us, like Justin Aversano and Pop Punk and a couple other guys. It was Capricorn Punk did like a Punks Collect thing where we all said, it's kind of a shill post, but with so many people on it, I think we got like 3,500 submissions across our posts. I like picked a top 10 and bought 4 or 5 pieces, and everyone did a little bit on it. So yeah, I do chat with punks about art quite a bit, and obviously other things. I offer some not full legal services, but initial feedback on legal questions sometimes, or things like that. Or whenever That's I feel like I can help, I try to.
It's really cool about the punk community, right? I think it's the diversity of people that we have in, people developers, people, lawyers, people that really have a great art eye, artists themselves and creators. So it's just nice getting that whole mix, and everyone has a special sort of
and I love the you ever use the like map on Punks Club where you can see where everyone's not everyone's signed up for it or whatever, but you can see where everyone is, and that's just like looking totally across the world, right? That's one of the things that I look forward to when I'm able to travel a little bit more. The young kids, it's a little hard to get away these days, but through punks and also the greater NFT art community, I feel like I could go almost anywhere in the world and someone's going to be there who wants to hang out with me. I have a connection everywhere, and that to me, that's an incredible amount of value. I used to travel like a ton for work. I told you I worked in the shipping industry for a while and would spend like months at a time traveling. And I was always kind of alone in those situations, which I'm fine with. I'm a lone wolf type of person, but it's a lot more fun to go to Shanghai and have a buddy to hang out with, So I'm looking forward to being able to travel and going to more events and things like that in the future.
Mate, I'd love to come visit your ranch one day for sure. The time comes.
Yeah, that'll be a punk special someday. Yeah, it's a pretty incredible place. Like I said, we've owned, it's been in my family since like 1884. It's over 30,000 acres. Like it's massive. I could host all the punks and everyone could have 10 acres to themselves, you know.
You heard it on PunkCast first. Artie's Ranch in 2023.
Maybe like 2027.
And mate, so right now, are you in this sort of market? Are you looking at adding anything to your collection at the moment, or are you just holding at the moment? What's your sort of plan?
Yeah, I'm always looking to add. I don't have a lot of liquidity to go after anything big right now. I'm have a couple assets. I'm on the more like PFP other side that I'm looking to sell here, and then probably some tax harvesting things going on towards the end of the year as well. But always looking to add. I've been doing a lot of Tezos collecting because it's cheaper, more communal, a little bit more experimental. You can kind of fly your freak flag a little bit more. Like I have some really weird stuff on Tezos because it just tickles my fancy, but I probably would not do the same type of collecting on Ethereum.
So mate, can you just walk us through your Tezos collection a little bit? I admit I bought a little bit, but I'm not deep in the Tezos space. But it feels like they've got like their own indie community of artists, and the artwork's really great as well, right? Like, I mean, what's that sort of vibe?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of art, bigger artists, now that started on Tez or stuff. I mean, there's also like. At first, I don't think there was ever any large Tezos purchases, but now there's like Zancan, his first FX hash piece. I think the floor is like 40,000 Tezos or something, which
it's insane.
That's a lot of, yeah. I've never had that much Tezos ever, but it's just a very art focused community, and the origins with like the platform Hicketnunk, it started as more of a here's 50 editions for one Tezos, and it was a very communal, lots of artists collecting other artists, and it was kind of and still is to some degree like a safe space to experiment. I'm this is such an American analogy here, but I'm a big baseball fan, and if Ethereum is the major leagues, Tezos is like AAA. It's like the up and coming artists. It's artists who maybe in the major leagues but hurt their arm, and they come do some experimentation in the minors where the stats don't count. So you get a lot of cool stuff, experimentation, a lot of really interesting like glitch art made with tachyons, which is like kind of like a mixing board for video, so it's like old school Sony Triniton stuff and old things remixed like that. Like I find those things pretty fascinating. FX hash is the art blocks, I guess, of Tezos, which is totally blown up. That's a lot of fun there as well. You get a lot of variation, more variation. There's less curation on the platform. Yeah, it's a really great and less, generally less expensive, usually due to like higher edition numbers, stuff like that.
It's kind of, I got the sense that there are a few punks that are into Tezos NFTs too, right? I think there's a really strong art and legitimate sort of community behind the Tezos sort of movement as well. Are you finding that, or?
Yeah, there's been definitely been more and more. I think I mean I'm sure I was never like the only one, but it felt a little like I was I was kind of out there on my own for a bit. But there's been more and more and more. I just saw Fuck Render set up his Tez profile. He had actually
Yeah.
sold a couple things on Tezos, but I don't think he had really collected too much. So I was actually explaining to him what the recent hashtag RIP hen was a couple days ago, and he
What is that?
signed up as hen. Well, Hicket Nunk was like the original like platform, I guess, and then it died about a year ago. Right now, or whoever was running it just stopped. Now it's called Teia, Teia. So it still exists in the same form, but it just never was really the same because at that point that was like the only thing, and that's where everyone was. So they're often like celebrations of hen. And the most recent one was RIP hen, and
Mm.
many artists who were there from the beginning will do a 100 editions piece or whatever for like one Tezos, even though they could sell them for quite a bit more. And a lot of people buy 4 or 5 and then flip them for 10, 15 Tez or something. But I think I picked up like 35 pieces in one day yesterday
Yeah.
and
That's
spent
crazy.
60 Tez.
And I guess just for most out there, one Tezos is, what is it, like $1 now for a Tezos?
Yeah, I
So
think it's just under $1.
yeah, so it's a lot cheaper than stuff on ETH too. So mate, you've got a huge Tezos bag here. I'm just looking through it. You got some really
Yeah.
fun stuff.
I got like
All
I
right,
have like 1,600 pieces, I think, on Tezos.
that's crazy. All right, I might
A
have
lot of
to.
glitch stuff, a lot of gen art, and quite a bit of AI stuff too. Because I'm still trying to sharpen my eye for AI based art. Because to me, a lot of
Yeah,
it tends to kind of look the
what's
same.
yeah, what's your take on AI art? Like I think the common narrative is it's relatively low effort, right? In that you type in a couple of words and something sort of spits out and you mint it. But like, what do you sort of see that could be unique and special about AI art?
Yeah, I think there's two different buckets of AI art. The first bucket is you have trained the AI yourself, right? And that is decidedly not low effort. One of my favorite artists, and like has become a pretty good friend over the last year or so, is Pinder Van Armen. He has a punk. Um, everything he does, he trains it all the AIs himself, and super high effort and really cool stuff. So there's kind of that bucket of artists, and there's quite a few more there. But then there's this is definitely not the correct term, but I call them prompt artists, which are the Dolly Mid-Journey type artists, where it's you're typing words in, right?
Mm.
And I my first initial thought was, yes, this is like this is too easy, right? Like if I can do this, my always thought was always like, I'm not an artist, so my thought is always, if I could do that, I don't feel like it's art. And then I got on Dolly and I can't make anything. They all look like crap. And I'm like, you know what? It takes a little bit of skill to actually make something beautiful. And I've seen, I've had a couple AI artist friends who've kind of shown me their prompt and how they got to that piece. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually like more work than I initially thought, and I kind of gained a newfound respect for those artists as well. I do think I am more impressed if you've trained it yourself and all of that, but I don't discount AI art just because of the tools used to create art.
Mm.
I think if you can make something beautiful or powerful, or something that just brings some type of emotion out of the viewer, I think you should be applauded, regardless of what tools we use. I think any time in history someone said that's not art, or that's whatever, that's bullshit, that's whatever, I think it's been proven to be wrong. So I'm always, when you asked earlier, what are you looking for in art? I'm trying to find something I've never seen before or that wasn't able to be created before. And so I think AI definitely has a place in, top end digital art collections. Personally, I'm still trying to figure out what I think good AI art is. A lot of it kind of looks the same, has that same kind of AI vibe. So I'm always trying to find AI art that breaks that mold. So trying to think of a specific example. Okay, well, because he's a punk, also what's his Charles AI is what's his handle? Hodel France. He's a punk. He's got a blue bandana. I saw some of his pieces. I'm like, this looks, has a unique take or looks different than some of the other things I had. And I was kind of I don't know if I was an early supporter, but bought a piece of his at 0.2 or 0.15 or 0.2 ETH. And Cosmo just bought one of his for his Genesis super rare piece for a couple ETH. And I think he's sold out everywhere, and his floor is 3 or 4 ETH on super rare now. I have a couple pieces of his. So yeah, it's just trying to find what's next. Trying to
yeah.
I don't know.
AI does have that sort of early flavor and enough haters where you think that there's enough of substance to warrant a bit more digging, right? It is interesting, and some of the stuff that comes out of it is absolutely really beautiful as well. So yeah, I'll definitely take a closer look at it with you. I mean, so when you look back at, I guess, your NFT career, what's your best win or loss that sort of comes to mind? Anything in particular?
Oh, well, let's do losses first. Get those out of the way. Buying the LeBron Kobe tribute at 20 something thousand was a pretty big loss. Sometimes one of the worst things you can do is just rushing yourself. Like, jumping on this train, it's going to take off, whatever, without really doing the research or, I think that's something that everyone does a little bit. But my specific one was Coldy did. He has like those decentralized things on super rare, and now he's got some other ones too. But he did as a gift, like to the super rare holders, his first 3D piece. It's like a GLB, and I did not I saw it and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I want to get his first 3D piece, and I thought the supply said 10, and it was 100, and I paid 12 ETH because that was the only one for sale, and I was like, yeah, for his first, yeah, and then it was 100, and then the next one went for sale for like 2, and I was like, oh shit, and that was $3,000 ETH or something. So I took like a 30K loss within a few days there. So that was a tough one. Wins. I'd say we're still pending a little bit because I tried. I don't really flip art. I flipped a lot of PFP stuff to buy art. But wins, the ape that I'm holding was 0.4 ETH. I think my Gazer collection is going to be a pretty large win. I think most I paid for any of it was like 7 ETH, and it's a 20 plus ETH floor. What else? Like big piece. Joe Pease. Do you know Joe Pease? If you don't, write it down and go check it out. It's the coolest stuff. He's I'm not sure how to describe him, like video artist. He edits videos and makes like crazy scenes out of, I think one of his more famous ones is like there's several people like walking across a street with cars going everything everywhere, but it's, you know, he created it, and it's so no one gets hit by a car or anything, but it's just these like crazy scenes that he takes from different pieces of videos. And I bought one of his pieces at 6 ETH, which was I think it was like 3K ETH, like, you know, it was 18,000 or so, and now I think his super rare stuff's going in $60,000-$70,000.
Wow. How do
He's
you spell his last name?
Pease. I'd say, yeah, like those, yeah, like in terms of like, here's the stars of my collection, it would be like my Gazer collection, that Joe P's piece, and then I have two Fuck Render ones that I bought, one at Sotheby's and one at Christie's.
Awesome, nice. I'll definitely take a closer look at Joe P's. He's got some interesting stuff. I've just got that his Twitter account open. It looks really interesting. And then if you were to look across, I guess the Twitter space, do you have a favorite punk personality that comes to mind?
Man, favorite punk personality. I don't know. There's so many good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to, you know, one that I'll mention because I have a lot of respect for him as a collector, and he was actually the first person I ever traded with. Is Defiance Works. Awesome. He's a spectacular collector. He was one of the first people in on like Artifact. My first trade with him was a Space Strips, those like shoes from the artists, which just got delivered like last week, you know, a year and a half after we bought. It was like a Kickstarter, basically, you know. You get it a year and a half after you bought it. But yeah, he's really great. There's so many good ones.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll look into Defiance Works for sure. And if you were to describe punk culture in a few words, what would that be?
Punk culture. I would say, you know, this isn't quite the right word, but it's a self-starter community. It's a lot of people with a lot of drive and ambition, and, you know, vision, I think. Yeah, I think those are kind of the words I would go with.
Nice. And if you could pass on a message to the next owner of your punk, what would you like to say to them?
Well, considering that would be my sons, I would tell them, don't fuck it up. No. I would say, you know, I would say be a good steward of not just the asset, but the punk name and brand, and try to add more to the community than you take away.
Beautiful. And Artie, this was fun, man. Thanks for your time today. I guess any closing comments on your side, and, you know, how can sort of people find and connect with you?
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is my first recorded interview. I've been interviewed for a few other things that ended up on a, you know, paper or website, but first recorded thing. So I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, I'm at Punk7635 on pretty much everything. Telegram, Twitter. I have DMs closed because I don't understand how you could not have DMs closed. But if you really want to get at me, you can just tweet at me and say, I'd really like to DM you, and I'll probably answer. Can't guarantee it, but I'll try to.
good.
Yeah, I'm around. I try to GM every day. I think that's just being here is the first step.
Absolutely. Mate, I'll definitely keep a closer eye on your tweets and maybe a closer eye on your wallet too, because now that I know you've got a pretty strong art eye, I might have to do some copy trades. But
Go for it. Yeah, my Twitter's it's 90% retweets and 1% inspirational and 9% salty takes. So
no, it's super fun following your tweets, mate. I think you sort of arouse a lot of salty people as well from some of your posts.
Yes.
Cool. Well, mate, if you're ever on this side of the world, definitely hit me up. I'm looking forward to the ranch, the Punks Ranch party in 2027. So we'll put that down the cards.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So this was fun, and thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Guys, that wraps up another episode of PunkCast for the week, and we'll be back next week with another punk. Bye for now.